Hello everyone, Reginald Scott here. Great to see you all again, and I hope you're all doing really well today. Today we're going to be going over a few points that were raised in my rim versus disc video. If you haven't seen that video already, I would encourage you to go and watch it now so that you can understand what's going to be said in today's video. I will stick the link to that below. For those of you who've already seen it, so we're just going to go over a few of the points that were raised in the comment section of that video. Some things that people didn't understand or perhaps got wrong in the comment section. I just wanted to elucidate a little bit more on those points. In the background of today's video, you're going to be watching me on a social ride. This was a social ride for a coffee shop, sort of a promotional ride really. Before I begin with the actual topics, if I could ask you to do me a massive favor, and please do like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share with a friend, all that good stuff.
Please! I'll never tell anyone, I swear.
It would be very much appreciated. Of course, your comments are always welcome as well. And if you are new here, I do a very wide variety of videos on this channel, everything from discussion topics like this one, through to reviews, through to news, how-to videos, all sorts of stuff. So you're bound to find something on the channel that is useful for you or just enjoyable to watch. So thank you very much for sticking around. I do appreciate it. Let's get on with the video. So the first subject for discussion is tyre size. Now there were a lot of people in the comments who were sort of pro disc brake, who kept mentioning tyre size as a reason or justification for why disc brake road bikes are better. And the argument went something like this. Yes, okay, rim brake is better in these areas. However, a rim brake bike can't accept anything bigger than a 23 or a 25mm tyre, whereas my disc brake road bike, inverted commas.
But can I just stop you right there for a second? When people do this, I don't really know what that means.
Can take, 35, 30, whatever millimeter tires all the way up to 40 millimeters or maybe more than that. So therefore it is a superior machine because I need fatter tires for loose gravel that I ride on, or better grip in rough conditions, or better comfort. Okay, so a lot of people in the comments who mentioned tire size seem to be under the misapprehension that rim brake bikes are incapable of taking wider tires, and this is of course totally historically incorrect, and it's factually incorrect even today. So if you look at my modern Cinelli road bike, which is a steel road bike in rim brake, that bike with standard Ultegra calipers can fit easily a 28mm tyre, and I believe it's possible to put a 30mm tyre in that frame. It's not rated for 30mm, but judging by the size left over in the frame, I reckon you could easily get a slick 30mm tyre in there without any problem whatsoever. So modern rim brake road bikes are capable of taking wider tires. The older rim brake road bikes that we were using, 8 to 10 years ago, were not designed to take wider tires. And that's the point. Modern disc brake bikes, one of the ways that they have been marketed is, if you buy a disc brake bike, you can fit wider tires. Okay, that's one of the ways they've got people hooked. But the simple fact is that the older road bikes didn't need to take wider tires because their purpose was not built around making them into all-terrain vehicles of some kind, right?
Damn! What happened? I mean, did you eat the whole time I was in there? I mean, when I left, you was like, plickety cow, plickety cow. Now you like, boom, and some Oprah shit. Wait a minute. That's all right. I can adjust. It's the love that counts. You know what I mean? I can adjust to a plus-size woman. Just more cushion for the pushing.
So for me, wanting to buy a road bike and then also desiring to put very fat tires on it is a bit like buying a Ferrari and then complaining that the Ferrari isn't capable of going off-road and then massively modifying the Ferrari in order to take off-road wheels and tires. And the issue with that is that I'm sure most of you would logically agree that if you had a Ferrari with an off-road suspension and off-road tyre clearance and massive chunky off-road tyres, it would be slower as a road race car than a standard Ferrari, okay? And that's my point about road bikes. road bikes traditionally had narrow tires because the feel of a narrow tire gives you great responsiveness. It gives you excellent feedback in the corners. It doesn't collapse or fold over when you start to lean on it. And having a relatively high pressure narrow tire is faster. Now, there's going to be a lot of argument about that. A lot of people are going to tell me that I'm wrong about that. But it has been shown in videos that I've seen that that is the case, that a narrow tire is still faster on a road bike, on a road surface. Now, if you ride on road surfaces which are like the surface of the moon, then yes, potentially a narrower tire is going to slow you down. But the point I'm trying to make is that a dedicated road bike, which is what I ride, and I ride on road conditions, even though some of these roads, as you can see, are not brilliant, they have cracks and small divots and, holes in them, I'm still faster on a narrow tire than I would be on a fat tire. Now, if your argument is for comfort, that is absolutely fine. And if you want more comfort, fitting a 30, 35, 40, 45 millimeter tire may be absolutely great for you. And I've got nothing against that. However, if you do want to fit, say, 45 millimeter tires to your bike, then what I would say is you don't need a road bike. Or a road bike is not the choice of bike you should be going for. What you should be going for is a gravel bike or a hybrid bike or some other kind of bike which is designed to take fatter tires. What I don't understand is the concept of making a road bike, which should be dedicated to being fast on the road, into an all-purpose bike which can do everything kind of well but not brilliantly. That is my issue. So for me, the argument disc brakes are better because they allow fatter tires. It's not necessarily true because rim brake bikes can also fit fatter tires. And do I really want fatter tires on my road bike? And the answer for me is a categorical no. Now, coming on to, again, whether rim brake bikes are capable of fitting really fat tires, I have a drop bar touring bike which has got cantilever brakes on it, and that can fit a 40 plus millimeter tire. At the moment, I've got 35 millimeter tires in it, no issue whatsoever. It is a rim brake bike, and it still fits those wider tires, and it could fit wider rims if I wanted. I'm not limited to how wide I can go on the rim or on the tire really with that bike. And then if you look at the bike that is in my family home in Italy, they have a wooden bicycle hanging on the wall. That wooden bicycle was built 1939, 1940, sometime around then. And it is very old, and as you can see, it has quite wide tires on it. So traditionally, rim brake bikes did come with wider tires. It's just that the older road bikes were designed with narrow tires for a very specific purpose. And that specific purpose was to make them as agile, as well handling, and as fast as possible on a road surface. I do intend to make a video all about wide versus narrow tires. I'm going to be doing some testing and some research into that, and then basically presenting my results in a video. So if you have any more questions or queries or ideas about wider versus narrow tires in general, try and save them for the comment section of that video so we can have a full-on discussion about tire sizing. That brings me on to the next subject for discussion, which was different bicycles being brought up in the comment section. So a lot of people in the comment section didn't pay attention to the fact that I was very specific in the video saying this video is about road bikes, specifically road bikes. A lot of people came up in the comment section and said, but disc brakes are better because on my mountain bike when I'm doing trails, or disc brakes are better because on my tandem bike that carries 20 kilos of luggage on the back, and so on and so forth. So I am not against disc brakes as a matter of principle. I am against disc brakes being on a dedicated road bike, and I think they make absolute sense on many other kinds of bikes. For example, if I was to be riding a electric powered mountain bike, I would most certainly be having hydraulic disc brakes on that bike because of all the advantages that a hydraulic disc brake gives you in off-road conditions. And with that additional weight, and downforce into the ground and the fatter tyres and the suspension, the disc brake could be utilised much better. That argument for me was completely irrelevant because we weren't talking about mountain bikes, we were talking about road bikes in road conditions. I'm not riding my road bike, generally speaking, on muddy, dirty mountains. It is not what I do. I ride, as you can see, on a road. And even though some places on that road are a little cracked and a little grubby in places, maybe a bit of gravel every now and again, it really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things because the vast majority of time my wheels are rolling on tarmac. The next thing in my video that seemed to upset some people was a clip that I used of a comparison between 4 budget bicycles. Now, these 4 budget bicycles included 1 rim brake bike and 3 disc brake bike. Now, the disc brake bikes were all using mechanical disc and the rim brake bike was using mechanical rim.
So it's got rim brakes, obviously. It's the only rim brake bike here. How did it compare to the other bikes in its braking?
Well, in our brake test, it showed itself to be faster stopping, so that's a big tick there. But also just in the ride experience, having gone from the one to the other, they are just notably sharper, actually, which was really a positive thing to see. And I've ridden it in the rain as well, but it was fine.
And as part of their review, this channel had done a brake test between the 4 bikes, and the rim brake bike had outperformed all the disc brake bikes. Now, many people did not listen carefully to my video, and instead of understanding why I had included that clip, they interpreted it incorrectly, and they got upset because they were saying things like it was unfair of me to compare a mechanical rim brake system to a mechanical disc brake system, which to me is a very bizarre argument to make. And then there were other people who were basically saying that I was trying to pull a fast one and inserting a clip of mechanical disc brakes rather than hydraulic disc brakes, because if it had been hydraulic disc brakes, the rim brake bike would have lost the test, and therefore I was trying to confuse or mislead people in some way. That is not why I included the clip, and again, I explained this in the video. Some people weren't listening. The reason I included that clip was I was demonstrating that purely from a mechanical standpoint, disc brakes are not superior to rim brakes in braking performance. That was demonstrated by the fact you had 2 mechanical systems, 1 disc and 1 rim. The disc brake did not perform better. And the reason for that is the rim brake system is using a rotor, which is the entire wheel of the bicycle. That means you have the biggest rotor possible. And if you increase rotor size on a disc brake system, for example, you increase 2 things. One is heat dissipation, so you get better heat dissipation with a bigger rotor. And the second thing you increase is your leverage, okay? If you imagine the rotor not as a disc, but as a bar, as if you were, undoing a nut on your bicycle or a bolt on your bicycle, you often use the longest bar you can to put over the end of your wrench so that you can get the most leverage over that bolt to get the best amount of torque. So if you imagine a disc brake as a bar rather than a rotor, the bigger the rotor, the longer the bar, the greater the mechanical advantage you have, the more braking power you can exert. So bigger rotor equals better braking. And that is why when you compare mechanical versus mechanical, the rim brake is superior, because the rim brake is using a rotor which is of equal size to the entire wheel of the bicycle, which is something you could never get with a disc brake system. With a disc brake system, you are limited to how big you can go on the rotor. So what I was trying to show was that a lot of people think that disc alone is better than rim, when in actuality, the only advantage that modern disc brake road bikes have is their hydraulic system. If you compare the braking of mechanical disc versus mechanical rim is superior to mechanical disc. You basically, with mechanical disc, you've taken away the only braking advantage you had over rim brake for normal road conditions, okay? So that was the point I was trying to make. Now we come on to the subject of hydraulics. So hydraulics is interesting because you are able with a hydraulic system to apply much more force to the brake pads or to the rotor than you can with a pure mechanical system. That means with a mechanical system, you have to physically squeeze harder in order to get the same results. And you can never quite reach the same power of a hydraulic disc brake system. Now, that doesn't matter necessarily because you are limited in your braking performance by your grip with the road and your tire size. So if both bicycles have the same tire size, it doesn't matter that the hydraulic system can apply way more force than the mechanical system, because both systems can apply enough force to get optimum braking. Okay. Now, a lot of people commented that disc brake was better because it required less effort for them in which to brake. So to that, I have 2 points. And the first point is that, as I've stated in previous videos, especially on the topic of, say, for example, electronic gearing, that if you are physically incapable of applying enough mechanical force to your brake levers in order to get the desired effect, because you suffer from a degenerative disease or, arthritis or some other issue, then it's perfectly justifiable that you would want a hydraulic system on your braking, because it's going to make your life not just easier, but possible. It's going to make cycling possible for you. And I've got absolutely nothing against that. Now, a hydraulic rim brake system would be just as good as a hydraulic disc brake system in that situation. However, there are very few people nowadays offering hydraulic rim brake. So, of course, you're more likely to end up on hydraulic discs. Fair enough. Those people are not the norm. They are not the majority. And it's, as I say, perfectly acceptable for those people to want a hydraulic system for braking. To the rest of you out there who are using the excuse that hydraulic system requires less effort to brake, even though you're fit, healthy, and more than capable to squeeze a mechanical system, I totally understand. And I understand that life is hard. And basically, squeezing a mechanical rim brake is just too physically taxing. I get it. So in order to make your life easier, why not get hydraulic disc brakes? Then you can put even less effort into your cycling. That sounds good to me. And at the same time, pushing that little gear lever to change the gears, quite difficult. Some might say almost impossible with how tough those little springs are on the gear levers. So perhaps go to DI2. Again, you're reducing your effort on the bike. That's absolutely fantastic. Instead of now pushing a little lever 2 centimeters to one side, you now just tap a little button and your gears will change. On top of that, pedaling is probably the most demanding thing we do on the bike. And obviously we want to eliminate pedaling, right? So consider an e-bike. Go out and get yourself an e-bike. That way you don't even really have to pedal much. An electric moped would be ideal, and then you can eliminate pedaling completely. And then there is, of course, always the danger that you can get wet. There's weather, you might get some water on your head or something. So probably best to only ride at home on Zwift.
Do I detect a note of sarcasm?
Are you kidding me? This baby is off the charts.
Now, of course, I'm being extremely sarcastic and facetious, but to me, this is a major issue with a lot of cyclists. And I have people in my comment section who are in their 70s or 80 years old who are still riding around on mechanical rim brake bicycles and tell me in the comments that they have absolutely no issue with that, and they are still able to stop quite happily, and they don't have any issue with exertion with regards to braking. So if you're my kind of age and you don't have any obvious health conditions, in your 30s or 40s like me, and you are struggling to stop your bike, and it's not an issue of, say, dirty pads or worn out pads or something, and you're struggling to stop your rim brake bicycle, and you think that switching to hydraulic is the answer, that is not the answer. And I'll tell you why. Because grip strength is one of the major determining factors in life expectancy. If your grip strength is that bad that you can't stop a rim brake bicycle, and I'm not being pedantic or facetious or anything, I'm not being sarcastic, I genuinely mean this, then you need to do something about that. Not switching to hydraulics to make your life easier. What you should be doing is going out and buying yourself some of those exercise gizmos that weightlifters use to improve your grip strength. They kind of look like nutcrackers with a spring on them. I've got a pair myself, and you just squeeze those things a few reps a day and you improve your grip strength. And that means you can continue riding your rim brake bicycle, you can continue maintaining your grip strength, and you're going to boost your life expectancy.
Personalities aside, researchers say your grip can say a lot about your health. And it's not rocket science. The stronger your grip, doctors say the longer you'll likely live. The weaker your grip, and whether you're ill or not, doctors say it's likely not a good sign. Dr. Leon, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
The results come from a study done by researchers at McMaster University in Hamilton, Ontario.
By switching to the easier option, you're basically giving up, and that is not good for your health. So the second to last point I want to make today is concerning modulation. Now, a lot of people have argued in the past and also argued in my comments on the rim versus disc video that the modulation of hydraulic disc brakes is better than that of mechanical rim. I believe that mechanical rim brake is superior for modulation, and I gave my reasoning in the video if you want to go see that if you've not seen it already. But I got a comment from somebody who races on sports bikes. What do I mean by sports bikes? I mean 1000cc motorbikes, things like Kawasaki Ninjas and stuff like that. I just want to read to you some of what he said. So, the master cylinders they sell for track use on motorbikes deliberately offer a soft and stiff setting. The soft setting gives you extra mechanical advantage for relaxed road riding. The stiff setting shortens the travel a bit and actually requires more effort to do the same job, not less, because that makes it easier to control and be precise. The essence of good brake feel is linearity, not mechanical advantage. It means that how hard you pull the lever is directly proportional to how hard you brake. At all times, no dead spots, no sensitive spots, no wooden feel. You pull back 10% and you get 10%. You pull 38% and you get 38%. What it doesn't mean is that you can lock up the front wheel with your pinky. That's the stupidest thing about these systems. For me, this is an excellent description of all the issues with hydraulic disc brakes. The fact that you don't get 10% braking when you squeeze the brake 10%. That you basically have to pull a very mushy, soft lever quite a long distance in order to actually get any feedback from the brake at all, and that the resistance you get from the brake is so tiny that there's very little resistance with a hydraulic disc system, whereas in a proper racing motorbike you get quite a lot of feedback, you get quite a stiff feel, and that stiff feel actually helps you modulate your braking better than squeezing a brake which is soft and can be locked up with a pinky finger, which is something, again, a lot of disc brake advocates boast about being able to do. With a rim brake system, especially on my bike, my pads are very close to the rim, so I hardly have to squeeze my brakes at all in order to start getting braking. And with my rim brake system, I get really good feedback. I can feel the stiffness of my pads touching my rim, and if I want to put more power into my braking system, I have to physically squeeze harder. This enables much better control of the braking modulation, whereas with a road bike hydro disc system, you basically don't have to exert any effort at all in order to lock up the brakes. You can do it with your pinky finger. Unlike a hydro disc motorbike for racing, where significant effort is needed in order to lock up the brakes, and that helps with control. The final thing I want to talk about in today's video is hydraulic rim brakes. A lot of people were asking questions about them in the video or mentioning them in the video, so I thought I would cover them here. Basically, yes, they do exist. They were very short-lived in history. They sort of fell between the transition from mechanical rim to hydro disc. They are still manufactured and they are still used in some types of bicycle sports. The hydraulic rim brake is most popular in mountain bike trial riding. So that is a kind of a sport where people on mountain bikes jump from obstacle to obstacle, balancing on each obstacle in order to, climb over them. And they are actually very popular among trials riders because they offer better braking performance than disc brakes. And I'll explain why that is.
Disc brakes versus rim brakes. Which one you got? Now for me, I'm a trials rider and I need my bike to be absolutely precise, especially when I'm in a competition setting. And I use an HS33 Magura brake. Now the reason I don't just run discs on everything is that there's just a little bit of flex in the spokes. So when the stopping happens here and I'm on my back wheel or on my front wheel, that little flex can kind of throw you off.
So many of these professional trials riders or enthusiasts end up using hydraulic rim brakes, because once you've clamped the wheel rim, which is where a rim brake system clamps, the wheel stops moving completely. So you actually get stiffer, better braking, more confident braking from a hydraulic rim brake system. Now, do I think that we should have transitioned to hydraulic rim brakes? No, simply because you've got all the issues that I mentioned in the video with hydraulics that I don't see there being any need for. All the extra maintenance and expense of running a hydraulic system. And on top of that, if you're going to run a hydraulic system, you might as well go for disc brakes, because then you can at least do things like off-roading. So if you're going to buy an off-road gravel bike, it would make sense to go hydraulic disc. There is very little use to a road rider in having hydraulic rim. Again, basically the same issue with hydraulic disc is that you've got more braking power than you can actually use. For a trials rider who's jumping from one block of concrete to another block of concrete, being able to completely lock out the rims instantaneously is an advantage. But on a road bike, coming down a mountain at, 70 kilometers an hour on a 25mm tire on a wet road, having the ability to completely lock up your rims instantaneously is not an advantage. And you can already do that with a mechanical system. So in my opinion, it's a pointless thing to have. With all that said, folks, I hope you enjoyed today's video, found it, illuminating and entertaining, and perhaps it answered some of your questions from the previous rim versus disc video. And as always, folks, when you're out riding, please do stay safe, and I hopefully will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.